Brazil are investigating after a Minneapolis entrepreneur was found dead on a potential business trip.
43-year-old Dwyane Morris was the president and founder of Blue Waters Consulting and Seoul Community Development Corporation.
Tonight, the family of a Minnesota man desperate for answers after they say he was kidnapped and killed while visiting Colombia. Tonight, an urgent warning for Americans visiting Colombia after a string of deaths in tourist hotspots.
What's going on, y'all? Let's talk about passport bros for a moment. And if you haven't been paying attention, it's a trending topic. And we've had, actually this month, a couple of weeks ago, we had another brother actually pass away less than 24 hours being in Brazil after two female suspects used a common scheme, and it's called a Goodnight Cinderella scheme. And I want to talk about it, and then I want to actually shine the light on some past prior cases. And this video is just an analysis of what's occurring. And I know that there's somebody right now that's still not going to listen. You still going to go get your passport. You still going to go over there. You still haven't researched what you need to research because you're thinking with the head below, and or you think you're smarter than everybody in the room, and you're not. You're not going to buy an e-course from some other brother that actually has been over there 10 times and has actually been able to properly navigate, and he knows the ins and outs of a particular country. And yet you're going to go over there and you may end up losing your life. But I want to talk about it, and I don't want to necessarily judge anybody because what's done is done. These men have lost their lives. But I want to talk about the first brother, and then I want to shed the light on some other prior cases or prior incidents of passport bros. So if you're new to the channel, this is Talk My Ish, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And we're going to go ahead and get started right now. So let's discuss it, right? So Dwyane Morris was a ultra successful guy, and he had a $14 million company, or he had managed accounts that total in excess of 14 million. So let's think about net worth. He more than likely is worth at least several $1 million. So he has a net worth. He's a multimillionaire. He's very successful. I believe he's either married or in a long-term relationship. He's taking care of 3 other kids that are not his kids. They're his stepkids or somebody else's kids. He does have a biological child that he also takes care of, but he does have a stable, or appears to have a stable family life or family home back here in the States. So he embarks on this trip, and he calls it a business trip. And so it seems as if, again, there's a component of trust in the relationship because his domestic partner or wife allowed him to go. And they didn't allow him to go. He's a grown man, but basically was in agreement with it. And she had no reason to not think that he wasn't going on a business trip. Again, this guy's a millionaire, and based off my research, he's very likable. He could walk in the room and had a commanding presence. He was a people person. Sounds like he mastered emotional intelligence, along with had a high IQ as well. So you get down to Brazil, and not less than 24 hours, you're there. And so obviously, he's not thinking with his head, because you got to understand game. You got to understand when you somewhere and a woman approaches you and she's super nice and she's attractive, you got to kind of think like, your spider sense should start tingling. You got to understand that you got to tread lightly. You got to understand, even if you're here in the States and you at a club or you somewhere and you start talking to somebody, you got to start to think, what are the ulterior motives? Why is this person talking to me? And why is this woman engaging and talking to me? Even if it's the conversation's flowing back and forth, everything looks to be cool and good, and y'all vibe, and there's eye contact, there's sexual tension, and things are going well. And so Dwyane obviously meets up with a homeboy and meets up with another guy, and they meet these 2 women and they start to talk. And so obviously Dwyane is there for one thing. It's not a business trip. Really, it's sex tourism, because an attribute of a passport bro is to travel abroad and to become immersed in the culture and to sightsee and things. But let's be honest. Most men, I'm not aware of any celibate men going overseas just to go overseas. You're going overseas to have a sexual tryst or have sexual tryst with what you believe to be an exotic woman or a foreign woman. That's very beautiful. That has just different features that you may be not accustomed to from your neck of the woods. And so Dwyane and his homeboy, they go back to the hotel, and the two ladies accompany them. And so there's some elevator footage, and you can kind of see them talk. And and look at the body language. You can tell when a woman really kind of suggestively is into you, because she'll play with her hair, she'll kind of look you in your eyes. She just kind of just standoffish, just almost kind of like where the bread at, where the money at, like just hurry up and get it over with. I'm ready just to be done with this, and this is just transactional. And so Dwyane, in my opinion, he's almost being a sucker for love, because he's so enamored with basically wanting to engage sexually that he's not thinking enough. And so one of the big things is that I've heard and that I've seen by watching Passport Bro channels and reading guys and reading stuff, is that they always tell you never go get a drink, or never let somebody else bring you a drink, because the bartender could be in on it too. You got to remember, people run game every single day about a nanosecond. And so the bartender could be in it, and everybody in the damn restaurant or place could be in on the scam. And so he gets a drink, and the drink is laced with GHB, which used to be called a date rape drug. And so his drink is spiked. And so he consumes the alcoholic beverages. They get back, as I stated, to the hotel. And then he starts to have a reaction to the drug. The drug basically starts to incapacitate him. And so he reportedly begins to convulse, and he starts foaming at the mouth. So I started thinking about, it's kind of like a side thing, but I remember when reading about Jimi Hendrix, when Jimi Hendrix actually OD'd or passed away, when they found him, he was convulsed and foamed at the mouth. There was nobody there to turn him over on his side to where he could at least vomit the contents up, and he asphyxiated. And so I believe this is the same thing that happened. He asphyxiated because for whatever reason, there was nobody there to react, or I think they intended to kill him, basically. And they took his belongings, they took his money. It is unknown of the surviving victims. His condition wasn't reported. At least I haven't been able to check to see what his name is. And then, thankfully, the Brazil authorities, they did an intensive search, because sometimes it depends on the country. Like if it was Medellin, more than likely they might have found that person responsible, or they may have not. But this is Brazil, so at least they give a damn to some extent. And they were able to find this young woman. She's 23 years old. And if you look at her, obviously she's 23, she's attractive. People gonna take a look at her and be like, wow, she's pretty good looking. But let's talk about a couple things, right? So number one, you're in a committed relationship. So now you betrayed the person that you're with. Number two, you're in your 40s. And the woman that you were going to sleep with was 23. He actually has a daughter that's 23. So again, I'm not here to knock him and get on him too much, but it's unbecoming to such an extent, because you're basically sleeping with somebody that's twice your age, and that's the age of your daughter. And so it's almost kind of like the sins of a father. And now the family has to deal with the embarrassment of him going over and being basically green, or being inexperienced and becoming a cautionary tale. Let's talk about another Passport Bro that paid the ultimate price due to seeking romance on foreign soil. And he's another Minnesotan, and he goes by the name of Tou Ger Xiong. And he actually settled for Medellin, Colombia. And this is during post-COVID, when travel restrictions were lifted. A lot of Passport Bros flocked directly to Medellin, Colombia, and he was one of them. And so he goes down, and he got befriended by basically a criminal, and developed an emotional connection, or what he perceived to be an emotional connection. And he actually went on a date. And so while he's out on a date, he actually gets kidnapped. And so he's kidnapped. And then he calls his brother, and he tells his brother, hey, I'm in a bind. I need $2,000 because that's the ransom. Because he didn't say he was kidnapped. He just said that he was in a bind. His brother said, sure, I can get you the money. And then his brother and the family, they grew very, very concerned, because he stopped responding. And, minute by minute, hour by hour, they get more and more alarmed because they realize something's happened. Their brother's usually very quick, fast, responsive, and being in terms of responding back. And their worst fears were confirmed the very next day. His lifeless body was found with various stab wounds, and he was discarded like a piece of trash thrown over a 260-foot cliff in a wooded landscape over in Medellin. So just again, discarded, just treated like a piece of trash because all they wanted was his money. They had no intention on trying to be romantic with him and oblige in whatever agreement that they had come to. And so again, he's just another cautionary tale. And I think unfortunately we probably won't hear the last of this. But if you're watching this video, and again, if you're on the fence about going, at the end of the day, you're an adult. You're more than likely going to probably go. Just make sure that you educate yourself. Make sure you understand the risk involved in being a passport bro, which is essentially an attribute of it is sex tourism. And don't get caught up. Don't accept the drink that you didn't see somebody make. Don't get caught up in a 2-for-1 where you see two beautiful women and they're talking about, you know, going to do a threesome or something that's just, even if that's your thing, it's just, if usually if it's too good to be true, then usually it is. And so with Dwyane and with Tou, unfortunately, these guys passed away or actually was murdered. And it's a shame because if they had, you know, maybe a little bit of street smart, and I'm not saying they're dumb, but you got to have a little bit of street smart. Book smart won't get you by. Being a nice guy won't get you by. You got to have a little bit of swagger about you. You got to have a little bit of think outside the box and understand when game is being run on you. So let me know what you think. Let's engage in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This is Talk My Ish. See y'all on the next video.